or whatever.
That
So
sounds
there
like a
was,
good. That sounds like a good thing to form the basis of of thinking of a creative like you.
yeah. Well, I think that was everybody. There's very, very few totally original ideas. I mean, nearly everything I've ever done in my career, in a way, has been suggested through somebody else, or has been seen through something that is actually already designed. Occasionally you get designers who will work in a purely new way, like, for example, the Art Nouveau period, where people like Charles Rennie Mackintosh, who was Scott's Art Nouveau designer, who really was very different, had a completely different way of looking at architecture. And going back to Sean Kenny had a completely different way of looking at the theatre. So up until Sean Kenny's period, which really predates when I'm working for him, and sets him back in, say, into the late 1950s, 1958 and 59, he had the idea that a set should be open, not held behind a curtain. So the traditional theatre set was a series of flats which came down over the stage, and you were looking through a gap which is called a proscenium arch, and every now and again the scenes change, the curtain closes, and there's a new set. And Sean was interested in kinetics and interested in moving components, and so he began to explore the possibility of turning turntables and sets which are on trucks which can revolve, and that gave way to Oliver, which is the stage production of Oliver, and is still regarded as one of the world's great, literally great stage experiences.
Could you refresh me on Oliver? I learned about it when I was in
Yeah.
elementary school.
Well, it's a Charles Dickens story of a young boy who's basically in the poorhouse, and he grows up in a very east end of London, and he is basically virtually tortured by living in a poorhouse.
Okay.
He's deprived of food and
Is it from the 1850s or something?
yeah, that would be around the right period of time. It was in the area of London called the Rookery, which actually existed on Gin Lane, where basically all the people were thieves.
Okay.
So the story of Charles Dickens' sort of story was interpreted by Lionel Bart
Okay.
as a musical, and so in the musical, the young Oliver basically rebels against all of this, and eventually he triumphs and becomes, a different kind of person.
Is this the same as Oliver Twist?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
the same as Oliver Twist. Okay. Yeah, so the story of Oliver Twist was adapted for the stage. This is prior to the film.
Okay.
And Kenny's set, which is a treble revolve, where the actors actually change from scene to scene, walking through the set. So the set's moving.
Okay.
And as they climb stairs and so on, they're taking off their old coat and they're putting a new coat and so on. So that there is never a formal closure of one scene with the next. So Kenny became really interested in this idea and bursting the grounds of theatrical experience. And I joined him exactly for the first 2 months going up into Christmas '68, where we designed Gulliver's Travels.
What's that?
Well, Gulliver, you know the story of Gulliver's
I
Travel.
don't.
Well, Gulliver is a seaman who gets basically cast away on a different island, and every island he comes to, the people are either much smaller than he is, so he's huge, So they're called Lilliputians, little tiny people. Or he escapes to another island where the people are much bigger than he is. So there's constant change of scale. So a story by Jonathan Swift is the story of Gulliver and his travels through these different islands. And it was produced as a children's play.
Okay.
And Kenny and we, working for Kenny, basically designed the very first set that were ever using projection for the sets. So there were huge screens on the stage. These screens could go downstage, upstage, and you could project graphics onto the screens. So you could project a shipwreck, you could project the soles of huge feet, and we used models, and we used to scale robots and to a lot of filmic stuff to basically show the change of scale.
That sounds great.